Great. Thank you so much for joining us today. For those of you who have not read Dr. Babayan's bio, she's a PhD in AI and data and work, has extensive experience in industry, and we certainly look forward to her remarks. We at the VA here have an extensive investment in Microsoft. I must say they've been very helpful to us so far, and to me personally, in understanding Microsoft Copilot Studio, which I've, thanks to Microsoft's help, been able to do a little bit of work in, which has been extremely interesting and gratifying to me. But we certainly look forward to your remarks today. And I think with that, Nelli, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the introduction and having me on. As I mentioned before, there are some familiar faces, but what I'm going to talk to you about is slightly new because I don't know how much you're following some of our events and the news that are coming out, but we are in the process of the Ignite conference where we announce new capabilities and new services and products. So you are the first ones I'm sharing all these new things with that have just been announced, actually. So I'm going to share my screen and show you some slides. And I was telling Renata that we are a relatively small group. So if you do have questions, please feel free to ask them while I am presenting. So we can also have a conversation, and you don't necessarily have to suffer through all the PowerPoint slides if it's something else that you want to talk about. Again, my name is Nelli Babayan, and I lead our AI efforts across all federal customers. So my role is really in working very closely with our federal customers, understanding what their use cases, what their scenarios are, and then matching those to specific AI capabilities. So I always tell our customers, think about AI also from the point of view of what problem and solutions you're trying to solve. And then the different platforms or models will come as we talk about your use cases. And I know there's a lot of conversation, for example, about models, which model is available in which cloud or in which platform, and the development of foundation models. I'm going to move away from models and rather discuss how a platform nowadays is taking the front stage, because new models will come and go, and the model that is very popular this week may be obsolete next week. And what is important really is having a secure and effective platform where you can choose and develop models securely, add your data, evaluate, deploy, and then continuously monitor your AI applications. And this is why my talk is titled From Models to Missions. How can we make it more mission specific and help with specific use cases? So we're looking at the AI not anymore just as a generative AI component, right, but rather the agentic AI. I mean, you already know all of this. Generative AI is the form of AI, of the evolution of the AI that is creating new content, whether it's written, visual, or auditory content. What we're moving towards and we have moved to is agentic AI, which is really about adding that long and short-term memory to your AI agents and also doing some tasks on your behalf. And this is not only something that we're doing with the customers. It is great to hear that. And I know that VA has been doing a lot with AI. This has been at the forefront of that innovation, but that we're not just doing that with the customers, but this is something that we have been deploying across also Microsoft. And that agentic transformation, we are seeing it play out in kind of four different ways, both within Microsoft and with our customers. So when it comes to reshaping business processing and enriching our user experience, We have provided Microsoft 365 Copilot to all of our employees, and we saw that led actually to significant productivity increase. So there, and at the same time, we are looking at how we are reinventing also, for example, our customer engagement. And that really means that we have provided our support engineers, each of them, with with an agent that is trained on the data that we are using for help customers with their support tickets, with their incident tickets. And Microsoft manages 75 million incidents annually worldwide. So we deployed agents to triage the inbound flows, route new signals to senior engineers, and attach a copilot to each customer inquiry. And this led to faster, more effective incident resolution and enabled root cause analysis to update our knowledge base, so also improving response times for future similar future signals. Additionally, when it comes to accelerating innovation, we have delivered more products to market in the last 12 months than we had over the last 3 years. And this is partly because GitHub Copilot has written more than 1/3 of the lines of code needed for other products to go to market and be deployed. So this is really to show that how we are also embracing agentic AI within Microsoft and not only providing it to our customers. And then later I will bring in a few more examples of how we are working also with customers and what they have done with agentic AI. I'll bring some examples from the commercial world, but also some from the federal space, the ones that I can mention in the public use cases. Again, if there are any questions or comments, please just come off mute. I'm not able to see the chat, but just come off mute and ask your question. Feel free to interrupt. So what are agents? We are seeing agents to be existing on a spectrum, and different organizations at different stages of the AI transformation. Some of them are advanced and are building the next generation of agents with autonomous capabilities. Others are still building out some of those AI agents that focus on retrieval and tasks. So when we're talking about that spectrum, as of now, we're seeing them on the spectrum from simple retrieval to advanced autonomous agents. And retrieval is really designed with specific instructions on how to behave, their personality, and their overall objectives. So they follow predefined rules and guidelines set by their creators to retrieve information. Tasks-based agents are connected to specific workflows or processes. They operate based on knowledge, skills, and rules-based automation, and their primary purpose is really to automate repetitive tasks. And then autonomous agents, they operate independently, dynamically, and planning and learning from those processes. They adapt to changing conditions, and they make decisions with human supervision also. To illustrate that a bit more, what we're seeing is really, you may ask what's really the difference with the agents and RPA, right? Robotic process automation that we've had for quite some time. And the RPA is kind of being left in the yesterday's world and those systems are really about completing repetitive tasks, but they are also just one task and kind of one user interaction. As we are moving to this agentic system, we are having single AI agents with a human supervisor that it's able to take action on behalf of the human, or we also have multi-agentic systems that are doing several tasks with human supervision. And this is really an entirely new generation of applications with advanced capabilities and new level of demands on your systems and infrastructure. So this calls really for a shift of how we were developing AI applications before and what we are moving to. So applications are really evolving from that, using a single model to several models or an ensemble of different models whichever is suitable to your exact use case. Then we're moving to multi-agentic workflows. We are moving to continuous improvements rather than just thinking what is your point in time ROI for that specific system. And then from security packaged separately, we're actually moving to a built-in security and governance that is always with your agentic AI tools and platforms. And this is also showing the movement again from how we've been working yesterday and how we are working now and tomorrow. And what I'm going to tell you now is not simply what we are doing within Microsoft, but also what we are seeing other companies and other organizations do across 31 countries based on surveys. So we've spoken to AI native startups, academics, economists, scientists, thought leaders in different, again, organizations to see how we are moving from that yesterday work where you had very rigid automation or no automation at all. Information would move slowly and then we would have siloed processes, and moving towards more of a human and AI agents led workplace where the information is moving faster, you have an integrated organization, and the human skills are elevated because they have these little helpers with them, right? And what we are seeing is that an emergence of an entirely new organization that in that research we've been calling a frontier firm. So frontier firm, it looks different from those we know today. It's structured around on-demand intelligence, and you're really powered by hybrid teams of humans and agents. And these companies, and organizations, they scale rapidly. They operate, they're agile, and they generate value faster. And we're seeing that journey to the frontier firm move into specific phases. So phase one is really your human with an assistant. Every employee has an AI assistant that helps them work faster, better, and be more productive. Paul in the beginning mentioned that how he's been using and developing and innovate with Copilot Studio. That would be your first AI agent with Copilot Studio or with Azure that will help you move to that agentic platform. So that's phase one. In phase two, we're having those more AI agents. They are joining in and doing specific tasks at human direction. And then phase three, we're having really more of a human-led and agent-operated kind of platform where a human sets direction and supervises while the agents run entire business processes on workflows, and then they are being checked in by humans as needed. And this is one of the probably most popular slides I have when people have a lot of comments and questions. So I'm going to pause now and ask if there are any questions or comments or thoughts.
No,
Or even where are you in
Yeah.
your organization in this phases?
This is Gopa. I think Nelly, you know that we do have Azure AI Foundry portal, and then we also have this Copilot Studio. Where all this fit in that scheme of things? Where do we go to access these tools in your infrastructure?
Okay, I'm going to cover that, talk about specifically about the tools and how you can build them, and then we can talk about which ones are more suitable for which type of use case that you are working on.
Thank you. Sure.
Sure.
Now, I guess I have a question or a comment. Maybe, I don't know if you care to address it now or later, but phase one seems pretty clear to me. Phase two would seem to suggest that among the agents, there has to be some sort of orchestration capability, I would think, other than the human being, or maybe it's just the human being at that point. But number three suggests to me a very interesting problem where, and I don't know if this is true or false, or if anyone's at phase three, I think we're certainly not, but that there's not only an orchestration challenge among the agents, but now you have the very familiar orchestration challenge among the human beings. That if the human beings don't agree with each other, well, those agents are going to wind up totally confused. So somehow or other, anyway, it just looks to me like phase 3 is there's a logarithmic increase in complexity as you go from phase 1 to phase 2 to phase 3. And somewhere in there, phase 2 and phase 3, I would think, also on the technical side, we would have to begin to think about MCP and tools like that, I would guess.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to comment on something else important you mentioned, that you said that we may not be at phase 3, but we're at phase 1. So what we have also seen that not all organizations would go through these phases sequentially. You don't need to be 1, 2, and 3. It really depends where you are starting, and also maybe how large that organization is, right? Because they may be, if you're a large organization, some portions of it, some divisions of it may already be at phase 3, but others may be just starting with phase 1. So you really can kind of mix and match and be at different stages in this process too. And then there's definitely orchestration frameworks that I'll talk about for orchestrating the agents themselves. But then you bring up very important point about what about the orchestration among humans, and this really goes back to the understanding of how you are distributing different roles within your organization. Also, think of, for example, the data owners or data stewards, right, or the project managers, who is in charge of specific workflows or processes, and that would be the orchestration for the human part. But that's a very important point that you're bringing up, and that would not so much depend on technology, but more on people, processes, and how the structure is working all together. I think someone's hand is up. Bethlehem. Is there a question?
Hi there. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
So sorry, it's muted. Yeah, I really love this presentation. Thank you so much for coming. My question to you is, I'm looking at phase 3 and I'm thinking, from a healthcare perspective, what, immediate reactions you've gotten from customers, simply because, trust is such a huge factor, especially, if people are, leading agents now. There are different types of ways people can direct agents, both verbally as well as just prompting them. So I'm curious how the market has been reacting to that. I can definitely see a lot of use cases, especially in elder care, as well as people with, a lot of sensitive care models that, it may not be scalable to have humans take care of people 100% of the time. So I could see how agents could be instrumental in this. But I'm also curious how you're entering the market and how the trust factor is, has been playing out for you guys.
Yeah, so thanks for that question. We do have documented use cases from different industries, including healthcare. I'll be happy to send you some examples from healthcare providers and how they are embracing AI, implementing agentic frameworks. And there are specific tools that we have that are directed to healthcare workers and also healthcare organizations that are helping them with, for example, patient intake and providing some, again, knowledge guidance in how they are working with the patients to lessen maybe the load on the healthcare worker, but attend to the patients more effectively and efficiently. So I'll be happy to share some of those use cases with you and send them examples so you can see how they're doing that.
Thank you so much.
Question in the chat says, I'm eager to see a demo of Copilot Studio and some examples of use cases. Would the presentation include a demo of Copilot?
So I'm going to talk about the use cases, and I'm going to show you what we have just announced when it comes to the agentic frameworks in Azure. I was not planning on Copilot Studio because my impression was that you just had a Copilot Studio conversation last week with our team.
There was just an introduction, it was not an in-depth Copilot Studio presentation, but we can maybe do a follow-on later on if people are interested.
Yeah, Nelly, right. I mean, your team has been very helpful with me at the VA in actually using Studio. And I think with some of the people to build an agent, which is where I built one, but it's still in the dev environment, but it works. But I think what Renetta and others are referring to is somebody someone at Microsoft maybe share their screen, open up Studio, and actually build cut and paste, develop an instruction set, drop that into the Studio, click on a couple of knowledge sources, and test it in the dev environment. I think that's what people probably at some point would like to see. Not necessarily today, but I mean, that real, roll up your sleeves, hands-on look at how the thing really works. Which without your help from your Microsoft team, I would never have been able to figure it out on my own. But once you see where to point and click and connect and use the connectors, SharePoint connectors out of the box and all that kind of stuff, it I think works pretty well. But someone needs to step you through that the first time.
No, absolutely. I was under the impression that last week that's what was done, so I wasn't going to talk about Copilot Studio in depth too much. But we can have another maybe quick 30 minutes with the team here and go over Copilot Studio too.
Sure. Great, thank you.
Absolutely. But before that, and before I show you more things, I wanted to tell you what we have announced recently. And if that is really the Microsoft Foundry. And Microsoft Foundry is a platform where you can do all of your AI innovation and AI work. It's an end-to-end platform, comprehensive platform. And really, this is the back end of all the other copilots and applications that you are familiar with. So if you are using M365 Copilot or you have used the Copilot Studio, all of that on the back end, you have Microsoft Foundry, which is an Azure service. And Azure is the name of our cloud where you have platform as a services where you can build your own applications. And I'll show you how it looks also. But so what is Microsoft Foundry, right? It's really an AI application and agent factory where you can bring in your data, choose from multiple models that you want to choose from, depending on your use case, and then build your applications and then govern the entire life cycle of your AI application. How that really works is this. So you're given a flexible model choice. You can choose, and the models there you have the OpenAI models, of course, the Llama models, Grok, etc. And just today we have announced also that in Azure you will also have the Anthropic Claude models. This is super new as of now. I didn't have a chance to put that little logo there too before this call, but now you know that you also have access to the Anthropic models with this. And this is where you can really build those agents. I'll give you an example of where, because you see there on the right side, there are these connections to M365, right? Your Teams, your Copilot Studio, or some other local agents that you may have, and different protocols that you can use. The idea and the way you really think about should I use Copilot Studio or should I use the Azure for that, where Microsoft Foundry and where Foundry Agent Service are sitting. If you are planning a simple one task agent that with data that is not too complicated, that is not really dispersed too much, but then you have those connectors in Copilot Studio to connect to that, or maybe it's some data in your M365 environment. This is when you would really use your M365 Copilot or you would use your Copilot Studio. But when you're having more of a complex use case, and complex doesn't mean complicated, right? Complex really means that when you have disparate data sources, you have different types of data sources. Think of you may have sensor data, geospatial data, you may have audio and video, and you have all that data. You may have really large documents that also need chunking before they are provided to the large language model. This is when you would turn to the Foundry agent service in Azure and build more of those multi-agentic systems with Azure. And then if you want to, you can use the Copilot Studio as your front end or publish that agent into Teams and that to be one of the interface and your UI for your agent. And really, this is also going about what is that Microsoft agent framework where agents can call each other as tools passing tasks between specialized agents to solve complex problems more collaboratively. And Microsoft agent framework is an open source engine for building and orchestrating those AI agents using open standards and interoperability. So we've implemented agent to agent, A to A into the communication into this MCP, and to enable agents to cooperate between Azure, AWS, Google, and on-prem environments. So it doesn't, what I'm saying here is to build your agent, your data, or your other frameworks or your other knowledge bases that go into that agent don't even necessarily need to be in Azure or in M365. We are understanding that the organizations are hybrid or they are multi-cloud, and this is why the AI platforms we're building are also multi-cloud and hybrid that can help you connect to different data sources. And why again I titled my talk From Models to Missions is because it's not really so much about the models anymore. It's really about how are you planning to go about your use case and your scenario to solve those solve the problems and pain points and comply with your requirements. And within Azure Public, we have 11,000 foundational models, reasoning models, multi-model models, and some specific task-specific models that you can choose from depending what your use case is. And again, and the models direct from Azure, you can also add there now the Anthropic Claude models that have been introduced, so you can use them too. And this helps you really not to be locked into one or the other model, but rather choose a model depending how your needs and your requirements of your use case they change. And to Gopa's question, how you can access all of this. This is really when you are also thinking, what should I use, right? Should I use Copilot, the M365 Copilot? Should I use Copilot Studio or the Foundry agent service? Again, it really depends on what your use case is, what your requirements are, what is the knowledge base and the skills of the staff who are building those models. And this is something that our team would love to help with, to understand first what your use case is, and then map those to specific capabilities that would be most beneficial and cost effective. So you can, so you don't start thinking about, I need to build in Copilot Studio, but then your use case may be evolving, and this is when you need to add more from the Foundry part. But on a very kind of an easy scale of how you would decide if you're a knowledge worker, you're another coder, right? You need drag and drop, play a bit and very easily build your agent, and you have access to Microsoft 365 Copilot, and you want a simple agent in your teams, for example, to reason over a specific set of data. That is maybe when Copilot will be your best friend for that, because you can easily build an agent there. If you need some more orchestration, maybe build a couple of agents that are doing tasks in parallel or sequentially, And you are what we would call a power user, which means that you are it's still drag and drop, but you are more familiar with how agentic frameworks work or how to build those AI applications. This is when you would turn to Copilot Studio, and you can build a bit more sophisticated agents than simply with the M365 Copilot. And then on the advanced continuum of this is the Foundry agent service that is in Azure, an Azure service that is really geared towards both power users, because you can still build agents without writing a single line of code, but also developers who can use code to build those multi-agentic, more complex frameworks that are doing several tasks at the same time. They're also reasoning over multiple data sources that may be disparate and different types of data sources. And now really to Dropa's question on how we can access those. So if I understand your question correctly, so M365 Copilot is a license that you would buy and then you would assign to your users. It's a per user license. Copilot Studio has a bit different licensing types. It has messaging paths and also per user licensing. Everything you see in Azure, which is the Microsoft Foundry or the Foundry agent service, anything in Azure is consumption based. So if you have Azure environment, and I know you do, you already have access to those. You just need to create the resource and use that. Dropa, you came on. You have a clarification?
No, that is very helpful. I'm actually going to the Foundry now. Thank you.
Okay, great. And someone has their hand up. I can't hear you. Maybe to others.
We are not able to hear you.
Maybe type if that helps. He's going to type. We'll have to read the question for you, but maybe somebody else has a question in the meanwhile.
Any other questions?
Yes, thank you very much for the information. Your generosity with your time and whatnot, very helpful. Yes, I at some point would it be both useful and possible to get either your thoughts or from your colleagues on the underpinnings here, the dependencies of all these tools to work on data preparation. And what I'm most concerned about, this may be wrong, so I'm going to say what I'm concerned about, but maybe I'm concerned about the wrong thing, but is to how do we go about, if we want to have insight into data preparation ourselves and not depend on the black box functions of whatever are behind these tools. Like, for example, Studio will do a lot of it on its own. But if we want to externalize all that and have some human control over it, what are the approaches and tools and whatnot to think about for chunking, tagging, vectorization, and conceivably even creating knowledge graphs?
Yep.
Well, it seems to me at some point, maybe a conversation about that in its own right would be useful, I would think.
Absolutely. I would love to have another conversation with the team here about that, how we do, about how you actually can have full control over your data. And depending on what kind of data you have, whether you need to chunk it, vectorize it, etc. But if I reflect on that very quickly, you see on the kind of bottom of this slide, there is the Azure AI Search. That's one of the capabilities that can help you with indexing data, and you have full control over the index, right? How it's indexed, what you can assign relevance scores to your search results, and there are multiple other capabilities. You can mask PII, etc. And that also helps you with vectorization and also chunking large documents. And those are all different AI services that are included within Azure and can be surfaced through Foundry. I'll be happy to have another call with the team and like show you how that works and which use cases are where you would apply those, right? Depending on use case. You don't always need to chunk data if you have like short documents, but if you have 100+ pages, then this is when definitely you need to chunk the data so the large language model can actually digest all of that information.
That would be great. Thank you, Nelly, so much. That would be wonderful.
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay, let's move over, and then so.
Sorry, the question was typed, so let me just read it for you.
Sure.
Can you set up an agent in Copilot or only in Studio?
No, you can. So when you say Copilot, I believe you mean Microsoft 365 Copilot. So you can, let me go back. You can use either of these three to set up an agent. Which one you would use depends on your use case. Again, if it's a simple agent that is maybe taking some data from your SharePoint or your OneDrive, right? That is when definitely you can use Microsoft 365 Copilot. That's the first logo on the left that says Copilot. So the answer is yes. And then you can do all with the other two, Copilot Studio or Foundry agent, depending again what you are trying to achieve there. We have a decision tree that kind of shows you which one also to use. I will find it and send it, put it in the chat at the end of the call.
Oh, that'd be great. Very helpful.
Okay, so I'm going to go a bit faster here. So we also have a few minutes to look at the Foundry itself. This is really, and I will share the slides at the end with Renata and she can forward those. This is really how we're thinking about how you effectively and securely deploy and develop and deploy generative AI applications or agentic applications. This is when I really tell our customers, forget for a minute about models. Forget about AI. Tell me what are those pain points or the requirements that you have, and then we can match those to capabilities. So really think about those use cases, right? What are those use cases that you are trying to solve? And then based on that, we can choose a model. There are 11,000 of them. So there's definitely a lot to choose from. And then we'll build a use case with specific tools that are beneficial and again, cost effective for that specific use case. And we'll talk about also this security, data privacy, compliance, how you can put specific guardrails around your AI application to make sure that only those who are supposed to have access to the application, to the AI or the data, and you're fully securing that, really. And then the streamlined lifecycle is really about what Foundry gives you in terms of operationalizing and quickly scaling to multiple use cases instead of reinventing the wheel every time. So those are kind of the core dimensions we're thinking about what you are doing. And then, of course, experience quality is about who are we making this application for, right? Making sure that information retrieval and also the actual application serves the end customer and user the way they want to. So again, those considerations of how we're building or how you just need to think about those agents is what is the knowledge that the agent is going to be based on, right? And that data, and that goes to Paul's question about the data preparation. So if your data ideally needs to be clean and transformed in an authoritative source before it goes to the agent. Because if you supply your agent with bad data, your responses are also going to be bad. But that is something that we can work together with our Microsoft teams and help you with that process of data preparation. What actions are you given to give your agent? Is it a summarization agent? Is it a search agent? Is it an agent that maybe summarizes something and then sends it to your email or sends it to the other colleagues on the team to review further? So really think about what those agents are. And then security is very important. So we can have even another session on specifically security and how to secure your data, your identities, your AI, and your applications. And then we also have within Foundry evaluation tools where you can evaluate the answers, or you can evaluate the workflows, and you can evaluate the application, continuously monitor and evaluate the application that you have built. Some of the ways that we're thinking about how to prioritize use cases, and this is really again based on working with multiple customers across the world. Because when I talk to our federal customers, sometimes I hear we don't have any use cases, we haven't really thought about it. And then I talk to someone who says we have 300 use cases, right? But nobody has time and staff and money to do 300 POCs. And this is where we say, let's prioritize those use cases, understand which ones are going to have the most mission impact, which ones are feasible, which one, how much time do you need to implement those use cases? Is it 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 3 months, more? And then very important that sometimes gets forgotten is the ability to measure success. What does success mean for your specific use case? Are we thinking about time saved? Are we saving some on the financial savings? Are we going faster to decision making? And I'll show you a slide with ROI that you can ponder over later. And the last one here is how to prioritize use cases is about risk. And the risk here is not really the safety or security, but rather risk of what if I don't get on this agentic AI train? And is my organization or operations going to suffer? Am I going to be left behind in the market or against my adversaries? So that's another thing to consider when we are prioritizing use cases. And I often get a question from customers, how do we measure ROI, right, for AI implementation? And these are some examples of how you can think about ROI. And I also tell customers that ROI doesn't always mean quantifiable in dollars, but ROI can also mean efficiencies, again, reduce time to deliver something or faster decision making, which then can turn into financial savings or gain, but think of the ROI also in those terms. If you have other ideas of what ROI can mean as you are doing your own AI use cases, please share, put them in the chat. I'd love to hear those. And then I have several use cases from different organizations who have been doing agentic AI. And here's one from KPMG. I believe we're all familiar what KPMG is. So they are using our agentic frameworks to improve their auditing system. And think of that, this can be also useful for as a use case that the federal agency can extrapolate from. Think of all the different, maybe you're doing fraud detection in some agencies, for example, Treasury, right, or IRS or SEC. So this kind of frameworks can also be useful and use cases can be transferable to the federal agencies. Data analysis is also something that I think Paul mentioned. So BMW Group is using agentic AI to analyze their massive test fleet telemetry in more of a conversational workplace where engineers ask questions in natural language and receive charts, explanations, and correlated signals in minutes. The agencies, for example, who have that telemetry data can adopt this use case also for them. That's from the commercial world. Some of the most exciting use cases that we've had with our federal customers, to my mind, because I still sometimes have my academic hat on. This is very exciting because it's really accelerating science. And this is with the Pacific Northwest National Lab, which is one of the 17 labs under the Department of Energy. And we have collaborated with them to identify one single electrolyte that could help with an more efficient lithium batteries. And it was done with high performance computing on Azure and our AI capabilities by screening initially 32 million candidates together with PNNL scientists. So if you did that in a wet lab, this would have taken about 10 years. This is not the exaggeration. This is a real time frame that scientists deal with. But within having done it in cloud and with AI, this has actually taken only a few months. So that's really a good one. And there are other use cases here, and I will again share the slides with you, but I'm not going to go too much into details for the sake of time, because we also would have probably questions, because I also want to show you how Foundry looks. And again, this one is also an exciting one with NASA. We're using AI to reason over geospatial data, and think of it in a way that you would ask natural language questions and get text back. But in this case, you're not only getting text back as answer, but also the geospatial data that is on the back end. So you're actually having a conversation and asking questions against geospatial data and not just text. And then finally, we are thinking of how we are working on reshaping these business processes, our mission processes, and really starting with what is that task, what you're trying to do, what you're trying to improve, and then mapping the process, understanding the feasibility and ROI, building and testing, and then iterating and evaluating, and then going into production and scaling. And if any of you have those ideas and use cases that you would want to discuss, I'm happy to connect you also with your specific teams that are supporting you. And we will talk about how to work on those use cases, again, map that process, and then understand how you can move to a pilot, and maybe from pilot to production with those specific scenarios. So I'm happy to have additional conversations, whether it's on data preparation, on your use cases, or your or security. As I mentioned, my role is really overarching for all of federal customers, helping them with the questions, with use cases, scenarios, and mapping those to real capabilities. And then we, of course, have additional teams that are working specifically with each of the departments and supporting them directly. Okay. Any questions while I switch to my Foundry? Any questions? Okay. So this is, I hope you can see, so this is the Foundry framework where you can build your agents. This just came to me, or I'm gonna say no. So here I have one agent that called Federal Demo or Fed Demo, and you can build those. You can decide which models you want to choose from. These are some of the models that I have already deployed. But if I go to browse more models, here you can see we have a lot of different other models that are available and I can choose from to deploy and test. So let's stick to GPT-1 for a second. And here I can give instructions. This is where you give really instructions to your agent on how to behave. This is really about, for example, you're saying you are an HR benefits agent. You're answering questions only about people's vacations, what they, or travel, or just questions about HR. So you don't really go anywhere outside of that. Then I can add additional tools that I want to incorporate into my framework, right? So in this case, before this call, like 5 minutes before this call, I very quickly went online, searched some federal handbooks, found the Federal Student Aid Handbook, downloaded it, and just put it here for file search and uploaded it here. But I can have other different tools that I want my agent to get data from. So those tools can be, for example, grounding with Bing search, which would allow you to build your own secure agent within your environment that nobody else has access to, but you can still have grounded with Bing, which means that you can also get the data from internet if you want to. Some customers do. And then there's also the option of grounding with Bing custom search, which would mean that you would get access. You're specifically using some domains, but you can also block other domains that you don't want your users to interact with. And there's also SharePoint, and this is the Azure AI Search, really where you can have your different indices, your indexes that can come from, you can use for vectorization or chunking the data. Paul, your hand is up.
Yeah. So with these tools, thank you. I wasn't trying to interrupt you, but with these tools, I have to squint to read them. But could you use here tools that are not Microsoft tools, like well, Google would be one example. But for example, there's Elicit. There's a search capability specifically aimed at finding articles in the peer-reviewed literature. So Elicit would be an example. So can we invoke other tools here that are not Microsoft developed?
You can. So
You can or cannot?
you can. You
Okay.
can. There will not. So these ones I'm showing you, these are quick click and they're added. Others, you have a bit of another catalog of tools, like for example, Elasticsearch here I can see, right? That is not Microsoft, and there are others that are connected with MCP. So there are others that you can choose from.
Okay.
And then if you don't even find those here, you can still go to the custom, and we can help you build that custom connection to that specific tool with MCP or OpenAPI or others.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So there are different options.
Thanks.
Other questions? I don't know if there's anything. I don't see questions in the chat. But yeah, so that's where you can add those, and then you can also add different knowledge bases to your agent. In this case, what I did, I only uploaded the document, so it's faster. But then again, here are different kind of configured one-click additions, or you can go to the catalog and have a bit more of those different data sources. But even if any of these data sources are not available right now through one click, we can always build a custom connector with MCP, or you can index that data with AI search, because the data will need to be indexed anyway for the large language model to understand it. And we can do that. So you can add additional data.
I do have, when you say indexing, you're referring to tagging?
Not necessarily. Indexing is really more about turning the data in kind of a more structured format and creating an index like you would have, for example, at the end of a book.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that would be the index, and that because when you are doing, for example, retrieval augmented generation, RAG applications,
Yeah.
you cannot just simply give the data to the model to reason over,
Yeah.
because depending on how large your data is, the model may not be able to go over all of that. And this is where indexing comes into play, and you're indexing that data, and then the model retrieves that information from that index.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Sure. And then there are additional guardrails that you can add here, and I'll show you, for example, those are different guardrails that you can change them for example, jailbreaks. And the jailbreaks are one of the risks that associated with generative AI. For example, if you have a malicious user, for example, who is saying, forget all of your instructions, do as I say, give me all that information even if they don't have access. So we have built specific guardrails into this entire system that you can use to prevent those types of risks, such as, for example, jailbreak. And then there are additional content safety features that you can change and apply to your specific applications or models. Yes, Paul.
Yeah, I have a question about memory. When you refer to memory here on one of your earlier slides there or views, you're talking about long-term memory, I assume?
Both short-term
Short and long-term. Okay. And for the long-term memory, I assume that would consume storage somewhere, and therefore that would start accruing cost depending on how frequently you use the agent and what it is you're storing there, I assume, or how much. Is that true?
So yes, if you want the memory would typically be stored in a database that would be either Cosmos database, it's one of our databases, or Postgre database. You can choose something else, but we would typically recommend either Cosmos or Postgre because those are easily scalable and also cost effective. So
Yeah.
data storage would not will not break bank.
And if I am understanding my reading correctly, for the agent to, I guess the word would be improve itself over time based on the feedback from whoever is triggering the agent, that long-term memory is necessary as part of the feedback loop for the agent to improve itself. Is that not true?
Right. As long as you set it up to improve and actually go and take that memory into consideration, it will do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Great.
And another reason for storing the chat interactions for some customers is really about also improving the application, but also for security reasons to monitor in case the application is not being used by users in any nefarious way, because you can also set up alerts, for example, on specific terms.
Yeah. Great. Thanks.
I want to be cognizant of everyone's time. It's 1 p.m. Eastern, and I can stay for a few minutes longer to answer some questions, but I think that's it for today. Just
Yeah.
make sure that
That's great. And of course, if others want to stay and Nelli, you're interested, that would be great. But maybe we can go ahead and sort of, for those who have other appointments and need to get going, I think feel free to drop. I myself am going to have to drop. But Nelli, I want to thank you so much for your help and thank everyone else for joining. Maybe, and I think you and I did manage to connect on LinkedIn just before the call here. So we can either follow up there or through Renetta. But I think, and I want to see what others in our AI working group think, but I think a session on data prep would be really useful since it's, I think, people sort of refer to it all the time, but the references are always in passing. And oh, by the way, data is very important. And then they go on and talk about